examine that word trial, being tried, in order to get the purpose of trial and what we do in a trial. You know, when you don't know the purpose of a thing, it keeps you in total frustration. So is the world being tried? Are we being tried? Jesus Christ had this to say. Jesus said, man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that comes from the mouth of the Lord. And Jesus said so during a time of his massive testing in his life. He was in the wilderness, shut down in the wilderness for 40 days and 40 nights without food, without water to drink. Now, we turn to that passage, and it is in Matthew chapter 4. Matthew chapter 4, and I'm going to read for us from verse 1 to 4. Matthew chapter 4 from verse 1 to 4. And here it goes. Then Jesus was led up by the Spirit into the wilderness to be tempted by the devil. And after fasting 40 days and 40 nights, he was hungry. And the tempter came and said to him, if you are the Son of God, command these stones to become loaves of bread. But he answered, it is written, man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that comes from the mouth of God. So what's the purpose of Jesus being tested? This passage will let it speak so clear to you, but in order for us to do that, we'll do that in little bits of video. So here today, we're talking about what was the purpose. Here we don't see the express purpose. But when Jesus says, man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that comes from the mouth of God, Jesus is quoting another passage, and that's Deuteronomy. Let's go to that passage and see what that passage says, if we can learn the purpose from there. In Deuteronomy, it is chapter 8. Verse 1 to 3, I read that the whole commandment that I command you today, you shall be careful to do, that you may live and multiply, and go in and possess the land that the Lord swore to give to your fathers. And you shall remember the whole way that the Lord your God has led you these 40 years in the wilderness, that he might humble you, testing you to know what was in your heart, whether you will keep his commandments or not. And he humbled you and let you hunger and fed you with manna, which you did not know, nor did your fathers know, that he might make you know that man shall not live by bread alone, but man lives by every word that comes from the mouth of the Lord. Now, let's look at some remarkable similarities in this passage. We see God led Israel to the wilderness. God, through the Holy Spirit, led Jesus to the wilderness. It was 40 years for the Israelites. It was 40 days for Jesus. God led the Israelites to the wilderness with the express purpose to test them. God led, through the Holy Spirit, led Jesus to the wilderness to be tested. So we see this remarkable similarity. So that alone helps us to know that there is something about this passage and about Jesus in the wilderness, which subsequent videos will explain better to us. There's something there that says the test that was given here to the Jews is the same test that was given to Jesus Christ in the wilderness. So that is so important. Now you can also say, but what does that have to do with us? It had to do with Israel, it had to do with Jesus. No, you see, beyond that, Israel was a sovereign nation, like any sovereign nation in this world. And so God put a sovereign nation into test, and he can put all the sovereign nations of the world under his test. Next, they were the people of God. And what does that tell us? The church can be subject to the testing of God. And here we are, the whole world plus the church is subjected to testing by the COVID-19. So now we go to what was the purpose of this testing. Our passage says that he might, one, humble you, testing you to know what was in your heart, whether you will keep his commandments or not. So there's a humbling and there's a